Hey everyone, Pastor Dave here. And last week, this past Sunday, we started a series on goals and God sized dreams. And we are specifically looking at the book of Nehemiah and how the temple had been destroyed. It had been destroyed for over 140 years. And then Nehemiah felt called by God to rebuild the temple. And the people, the Israelites, they had been spread out across the land. These captors, these invaders had come in, burned a lot of the city, broke down the temple, and scattered the people. And now Nehemiah wants to come in and he wants to rebuild the temple. He knows how crucial the temple is to his people. But this is not an easy task. This is a very large task. And to even get started, he has to do something scary. He has to do something a little bit dangerous. Well, not just a little bit. It was dangerous. And so we find Nehemiah going to the king and asking to have the resources and the support of the king to rebuild the temple. And this is challenging for a couple different reasons. But one of the things that I want you to see is, in this past lesson, we talked about it this past Sunday, and that is when we have big difficulties in front of us, it opens up the door for big goals, God-sized dreams, things that only God is able to accomplish, that our own abilities, our own power, our own strength, we couldn't do on our own. And so we find Nehemiah looking at this big difficulty and asking, what can I do to make a difference? And he starts with prayer. And that's what I want to encourage us with too. Too often, we just kind of rely on our own self, our own abilities, talents, whatever, and then try to push through and ask God for help if we need it. But what I want us to see in the story with Nehemiah is he doesn't start with himself. He sees a need and he goes to God and he prays for it. He relies on God's help. He knows God's help is necessary to make this happen. But I want you to see today, and I didn't really hit on this on Sunday, so I want to focus a little bit on this today, and that is the difficulties that Nehemiah was going to come across were not just the difficulties of rebuilding the temple, but of approaching the king and hoping that the king was not displeased with him or his request. Because in that time, you didn't really have to do anything significant for the king to turn on you and just, command that you be killed, that you be put to death. You do something in the king's presence that he didn't like. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. He didn't like it and he wants you dead. Boom, you're dead. And so Nehemiah was putting himself in a challenging situation to accomplish a goal that he knew was too large on his own. And not only that, and some of the scriptures, it talks about how Nehemiah was a cupbearer of the king. Now, this would have been a privileged position. This would have been a position that would have had comfort that came along with it. Definitely some perks, some benefits that came along with it. And so, not only for Nehemiah to come before the king, ask for this time, this resources, the king's blessing, it not only challenged his livelihood, but also his comfort, because this meant that he was going to have to give up some of the comforts that he typically enjoyed to see this goal met of the temple being rebuilt and restored. And we're going to be going into this more over the next 3 weeks. This Sunday, we're diving back into this again. But today, I want you to think about what is maybe a big difficulty in front of you. And with Nehemiah, that difficulty, it wasn't just something that would just benefit him. That can be very tempting for us in our very individualistic culture and society to only think of things in terms of how does this affect me? But this big difficulty and big opportunity that was in front of Nehemiah was not just for him, but also impacted all the people. And so I want you to think of looking out in our culture, looking out in our society, what is a big difficulty you see? How can you be a part of bringing God's peace and light and love in that situation? And how might it challenge your comfort level? Are you willing, like Nehemiah, to step out of comfort to seek something that is good for the world, for God to do something incredible, not only in you, but through you to make an impact in the life of those around you? So think about that, pray about that. Thank you for joining me today. Hope you have a great day. Take care.